Hey everybody, good Monday. Welcome to Cinco de Mayo, Monday the 5th of May. My name is Doc Severson at 12-Minute Trading, and I'm going to be running things solo today. Dave is traveling today, so it's just going to be me. We're going to have a quick session today, depending on the number of questions, and we'll take it from there. So what I'm going to do real quick is just kind of go over the state of the market, go over the tipping point that I think that we're at. So I think this is an extremely critical tipping point, really, to set the tone for the rest of this year. So off to the S&P here. Okay, so what I've got here are I've got the monthly, the weekly, and the daily charts up here on the S&P 500. And I'm going to get my magic pen over here so I can illustrate on the charts. There we go. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to 12-Minute Trading. Okay, so here we go. What we've seen so far this year is we started off the year relatively strong, and then, as you guys all know, we dropped by more than 10%. And that came during the February and March timeframes. And so March, well, actually, this was March and April. And then May so far has been this little candle right over here. We don't have much time yet for May. So during that pullback, that is a pullback on the monthly chart. What we've seen that created that was a downtrend on the daily chart. So that's this is a weekly chart. This is a weekly downtrend with lower highs and lower lows. Lower highs, lower lows. So the price has rallied like crazy. Something like an 18% rally in just the last 3-4 weeks. So that's still a lower high, though. That's still a lower high. And so what we could see happen, depending on what comes out of this week, is Powell going to play games, or is he going to play along with the administration? We don't know. Really, the best guess that we would say at this point is that I think he's on a different trajectory. He's on his own mission to make sure inflation doesn't come back. So if he gets a little bit too, if he tips the market over at this point, we could start to drop once again, because again, this is a monthly pullback. Monthly pullback, weekly downtrend, and those don't go away overnight. Now, what could change, though, is that we've already seen the market transition into a daily uptrend. So this child time frame is trying to make a reversal back up to the upside. So this is where it gets interesting, because we have overall the trend is still to the upside on the monthly chart, even though this is a strong pullback. This is a trend to the downside on the weekly chart, and we've got a trend to the upside on the daily chart. So who wins? Who wins? Well, rule number 1 says that larger time frames dominate the trend. And right now, the monthly chart says I'm in charge. I'm still heading higher. Although the weekly chart, which is 5 times weaker, is saying, no, we're going to start this downtrend. And so the daily chart really is kind of the wild card here, because what could happen is one of two things. Either this week we see a pullback, some type of pullback to a lower high, and then we start the process of reversal again, and that will make a very quick move to the downside. That is one potential way that this sets up. The other way that this sets up is we consolidate. We see the charts consolidate for a brief period of time up in this area, enough to build up the energy on the daily chart to run again. And then we actually see a breakout from here. And that breakout could lead us to close to, if not all-time highs. So this is really interesting from a charting perspective. A lot of times we see, markets are just playing with the trend, and we're just going along with the trend, and everything's very simple. But then we transition into what we call sideways and volatile. And sideways and volatile always transitions in one of two ways. Either it reverts back to the main trend again, or it starts going into trending and volatile. So we're at a huge tipping point here where I think we could determine one way or the other. I'd say within the next 2 weeks how the rest of 2025 is going to take off. Now there's one last sort of saving grace here if we do drop. If we end up dropping from here, everybody's going to get super negative and say, well, it's over. It's over for 2025. And a lot of times I will see the same type of move that comes down and effectively retest the lows. Sometimes it's a double bottom undercut, which would be all the way down here. Or sometimes it's just a kind of a scary higher low, which is what we had 2 weeks ago. And sometimes the market will absolutely pivot off there. Remember, what the market's looking for is certainty. So will it get any certainty this week? Do we have any trade deals coming in? Do we have any clarity in terms of the tariffs that are coming or not coming? Alcatraz is not going to tip the market one way or the other. That's not going to happen. On the other hand, the Fed, is the Fed going to play ball? Are they going to throw some hints out there saying, you know what, we're softening our stance a little bit and we may consider cutting rates here. We don't, based on the jobs report, based on the GDP, based on CPI and PPI, which were below consensus, we're going to play ball here. Market would rip from there. So again, we're dealing with things that we don't know about. And it's not our job right now to predict the future, even though what it seems like is that successful people predict the future. No, that is not the case. What professionals do is they lay out, in effect, this box. This is why we call them a Darvis box. And they program themselves what they will do, because the toughest thing to do within trading is to get, I would say, a cognitive bias. You get a bias, you think you read something somewhere that you agree with, and you're all in on that point of view. And so what you will do after that is, and this is a function of your subconscious mind, you will basically go out there and seek and find everything that aligns with that. So you'll block out everything else but what you want to hear. And this is why we run into these moves where all of a sudden, hey, that wasn't supposed to happen. And it goes on for a week or two before you snap out of it and say, whoa, I guess this isn't working out. I have to do something now. And so that's the way I was 20 years ago. And what I'm trying to do is to compress that time by not taking a bias. So I recognize that there's a tipping point here, and above a certain level, then I'm all in long. Below a certain level, I have to anticipate more distribution. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Okay. I've gone on for far too long here. Today's just kind of a throwaway day. And this is kind of what we expected the market to kind of walk sideways. For today and tomorrow, there's not a whole lot of releases. There's not a whole lot of important earnings. Everything comes down to Wednesday. So the market's going to hold its breath until Wednesday, and then, smoke comes out of the chimney, and then we see what Powell has to say that afternoon. Don't forget also that a lot of times, if there is a move on Fed Day, a lot of times the next day will come along and fade that move, because the initial move from Fed Day is considered to be the retail move. Okay? Guys, let me know if you have any questions. Depending on how many questions we get, we could be done very soon here. Gold is also having its fun here. It started a daily reversal a little over a week ago. We have a daily downtrend, which is now trying to, right now it's still a daily downtrend, which is a weekly pullback. And so we have a little bit of a tipping point here. This to me just looks like a consolidation, almost looks like a bull flag. So we may just be seeing this, and look at the energy now on the daily chart is built up. But it's going to have a difficult time breaking above here just because of the exhaustion that's showing. Okay. So that is gold. Let's look at interest rates. Let's see what's happening with interest rates. And so I'll just look at a couple of other things. And if there's no other questions, I will let you guys go. So this is obviously the biggest deal right now, interest rates. The administration and Scott Bessent's trying to get interest rates down. This is the yield on the 10-year note. Right now, it's not going anywhere. It's still hanging right around 4.3%. So once again, I think in this case, Powell's going to use the bond market and say, well, why should I drop rates? He's always going to be trailing the bond market. So he's going to wait until bonds take off and yields drop before he's going to consider doing anything. And that would generally also line up with maybe the equity market coming into pressure. Okay. Well, guys, that's really all I wanted to say is that we have a couple of 2 days of throwaway, I would say. A lot of times the market likes to sell in front of Powell to put pressure on him, make him sweat. So don't be surprised if we see a little bit of red tomorrow. But other than that, we are waiting for the Powell. There has been some certainty which has come back to the market. Some of the numbers that have been relatively good, like the jobs report on Friday, shows that the economy is not cratering just yet. The labor market's still there. Demand is still there. So even though on Wednesday private payrolls were a little bit low, Friday came along and kind of bulldozed over that. So we are in a waiting game right now. Sometimes it's best to not have a position and wait for the market to show you which way to go and then just hop on a ride. That's always the way I want to look at this is I'm on a kayak and I want to go downstream and not upstream. So looking for which way is downstream for right now. Okay, guys, that's all I got for today. Just wanted to show that tipping point to you guys. Want you to be aware of the importance of what is going to happen here in the next week or two. And that also goes for Bitcoin as well, too. Bitcoin is also very much in the same spot. Also very vulnerable right now to either a big rally or a drop. So thanks, everybody. You guys have a great Cinco de Mayo. I'll catch you guys next week. Adios.